What's up, YouTube? It's Oz. Driving up toward Illinois, and I wanted to make another video. Today we're going to talk about actually buying the van for VanLife, alright? I don't see a lot of content about this, and to be honest, a lot of the videos that I watch, VanLifers don't seem to really know anything about cars as far as working on them, and it just doesn't seem like they know a lot about cars. And this is common just with people who are just buying a car. I see it all the time, people who don't really know much about cars, if anything, and don't really know how to go buy a car. All right, so I'm going to talk about the way I would prefer to do it. Okay, other people take other routes, and that's up to them. And anything that I say, I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody else, okay? So, I've been looking for months. I've been, every couple days or whatever, I get on and I look at Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace to see what's out there. I'm going to tell you right now, buying a brand new van is not something that's on the table for me. You're talking $40,000 to $60,000 to go buy a brand new van, and that's something that you need to think about up front, is how much are you willing to drop. I am willing to spend somewhere in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. Okay, that's what I plan to spend. 15 grand max, maybe a little bit over that. Okay. So when you look on Craigslist and you look at used vans, obviously I'm looking at used vans, and I would recommend a used van. If you just happen to have the money in the bank to drop on a brand new one, then by all means. But most of us don't, and that's not how I even view van life, from a perspective of doing it with a bunch of money, which is something that we'll talk about in some other videos. So for me, about 15 grand, all right? So when I look on Craigslist and I look and see what's out there, I see a whole lot of vans that are just really high miles for the prices, okay? Like a transit van or sprinter van or ProMaster, these types of vans that are so popular for van life, like they'll want $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a van that's got 150,000, 160,000 miles on it, okay? For those of you that don't know a lot about cars, 150,000 miles is a lot of miles for an original engine and stuff. Like, that's a lot of miles, okay? Depending on how it was taken care of. And I'm going to tell you right now that the majority of these Sprinter vans, ProMasters, these vans that people like so much with 150,000 miles on them, they have that many miles on them because that person was like delivering packages and driving all around stop and go traffic in the city and stuff. You do not want that van for with 150,000 miles on it. You don't want that, okay? It's a time bomb. It's just waiting to strand you on the side of the road. Another thing is, people think that just because a van was owned by a company, that it was well maintained, okay? Now, well maintained as per the manufacturer recommendations, probably so, all right? But the simple fact is, the manufacturer recommendations often are not meant to make that van last forever, okay? Like, take this big truck that I drive. My company does the bare minimum just to keep the warranty up, okay? And so they're doing regular oil changes, but they're doing the oil changes at the exact intervals that the manufacturer says, whereas you're much better off doing them twice that often, or at least quite a bit more often. Changing the oil in a vehicle is the number one thing you can do to prolong its life, is changing the oil more often than what the manufacturer recommends, okay? So anyway, I'm kind of getting sidetracked. So if I was going to try to buy a used van that I wanted to pretty much use as is and not do a whole bunch of work to it, I would be looking for something that's a little bit older and something that has well under 100,000 miles. Look for something with 70, 80,000 miles on it. Now, this means that you have to wait and you have to continue to look until that van pops up. But they are out there. I see them all the time over the last several months. They don't last long, but they pop up 70, 80,000 miles on like a 2008 or something, you know, that just wasn't used all that much. That's the type of van you want to look for. Now, ideally for me, for my purposes, I would rather have something that I know what I've got. And so, before I talk about that, I'd like to say, even if you buy one with 70, 80, 90,000 miles on it, there are certain things that you want to just go ahead and change right off the bat. Because these are things like that will strand you on the side of the road, that are common to go out and strand you on the side of the road, and also that will mess up your engine. They will screw up your engine and, you know, give it a much shorter life. These things are the water pump, the alternator, the thermostat and radiator, potentially just the thermostat, but, you know, it depends. So the things that, now those are the main three things that will fuck your engine up. If your water system, your water pump, or your thermostat, or your radiator fucks up, that will fuck your engine up, okay? Alternator will strand you on the side of the road, but won't necessarily mess your engine up, okay? So the things that I would change would be alternator, starter will strand you on the side of the road, alternator, starter, water pump, thermostat, possibly the radiator. At least you need to have the radiator flushed from both directions. Radiator hoses, your belts, and then your battery. And let's see what I say: radiator, starter, alternator, water pump, battery. Those are the main things, all right? And then also what I would do is I would change the oil and run some kind of a flush to it for a couple hundred miles, and then change the oil again, and then run it for another 1,000 miles, and then change the oil again. Get multiple oil changes and a flush in right at the beginning to clean out that engine. Also, run injector cleaner. Anything post 95 or 95 and after, and some stuff before that, is going to have fuel injectors. Okay, you want to run some injector cleaner in that, in the first 3-4 tanks of gas every time. Run it all the way empty, put another bottle of Lucas in it, run it through there, clean all of that fuel system out. Okay, these are things that I would do. And also plugs, plug wires, tune-up type stuff. Okay, now that seems like a lot, all right? But this is the type of thing that you want to do in order to make sure you don't end up stranded on the side of the road, and also to prolong the life of your engine, all right? So now back to what I was saying. The ideal way that I would like to go, okay, is to buy a much older van. I want to buy like a 95 or older van for really cheap. Like starts, but the transmission needs to be replaced, or, you know, something like that. And something I can get for $2,000 or $3,000, okay? And then from there, what I will do is I will take it in and have a brand new engine and transmission put into it. Now that's going to cost you somewhere around, you know, $7-8 to have a, you know, maybe a little more to have a brand new engine and transmission put on it. Now, while they are putting a brand new engine and transmission on it, they automatically have to remove the starter, the alternator, the water pump, and all these components. So during that process, I will bring them a new starter, new alternator, new water pump, new thermostat, and new things that I want them to use as they put that engine back on, instead of putting the old stuff back on. That will save you some money. Most places are going to say, sure, yeah, you can bring us new stuff, because they got to put it on and take it off anyway. Okay? So then, what else do you have left once you've done that? I mean, you shocks, brakes, front end, okay? If you do all that, if you do shocks, brakes, front end, engine, transmission, starter, alternator, water pump, you've pretty much replaced everything that could go wrong with that van. And you've done it, if you bought the van for say $3,000, you've done it for around that $15,000 mark. If you go find the right mechanics and stuff like that, you know, and get the good deals. And that is my ideal way to do it. All right. Now, that's not to say that that is exactly what I'll end up doing, but if I'm able to, that's the way I want to do it. All right. Now, you say, why would you want to go through all that work? Because I want to know what I've got. I want to be confident that this vehicle is not going to strand me on the side of the road somewhere. And, you know, not to say that that still can't happen, but it's much less likely if you know what you've got and you maintain it really well. It's much less likely. If you buy a used van from an individual or a dealer or whatever it is, you have no clue how that vehicle is treated. The dealer, or chances are the individual, is going to go, they're going to change the oil, they're going to clean it all up, they're going to make it sound good, and you're going to think you're getting this good thing, but that doesn't mean that for the last 5 years it's been maintained well. Dealers are the best at it. Dealers, they'll change the oil twice. They have a guy that comes in and details the engine, makes it look all pretty, and they'll rig stuff up to make it work right, make it sound right, make it look right. And in the meantime, that van 2 years ago was hauling big ass trailers full of shingles, wearing that shit out for the last 5 years. Like, you got to be careful about what you buy. So, that's my plan. For $15,000, I'm either going to get in a really low mileage van and have the components surrounding the engine replaced, or I'm going to get into a really old van and have it completely rebuilt so that I really know what I've got. Currently, I own a 1995 GMC Yukon that has had this exact thing done to it, all right? It's a 95 GMC Yukon. The odometer has 271,000 miles on the body, okay? But the engine and transmission were replaced. They have about 40 or 50,000 on them. It's had a new battery starter, radiator, alternator, water pump. It's had new wiring harness, new brakes, new fuel pump. It's been basically completely rebuilt. And every part on that truck has a lifetime warranty. So if something goes wrong, I just go to AutoZone. The part don't cost me anything. I have to pay for it up front, bring the old one back, and they refund you. But basically, I've got a truck that with 271,000 miles on it that is the most reliable vehicle I've ever had. I'm out here on this road for 6 weeks. That truck sits at our yard for 6 weeks in the hot sun, just sitting there. Go back in, cranks right up every time, no problem. I see other guys that go out for 4 or 5 weeks, come back in and have to get jumps and sitting there fighting with their vehicles to get them started. Mine every time cranks right up because it's basically brand new and it's been very well maintained since all that work was done. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's reliable, that will last me many years. And that's how you accomplish that, in my opinion. So hopefully that was helpful to you. If you don't know a lot about cars and you're going to go try to buy a van, go find a friend who knows a lot about cars and have them come with you. Have them, look it over really well. Find you something that's got low miles, meaning under 100,000 miles, and you're much more likely to succeed. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. I know it was a bit of a rant, but I just wanted to put my thought process out there. And if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.